Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video we are going to look at two knives from the company Kubey Knives. Now if you've been watching my channel, you probably realize that in the past sort of year or so, I've been covering more and more Kubey knives. I have to say I'm very happy with their overall quality, their overall design and style, and that's exactly the case with the knives we're going to take a look at today. Now before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Kubey Knives who have provided one of these products for review. So the knives we're going to look at are trailing point designs. So here we have a fixed blade, the Kubey Knives KU231, and here a folder, the KU150. So as I mentioned, both of these knives are trailing point designs. Now if you are familiar with my channel, you probably realize that I typically like knives for the hard use camp application. These aren't exactly the best for that, but I was drawn to these knives, drawn to them for their just sleek shape, profile, the overall just tactical look. It's really sort of a self-defense look that you get with these knives, good sort of aggressive styling, and to me just something that really caught my attention. Now for the most part I think these knives definitely have their place. The folder I have used a ton, like a super lot. I have carried this as an EDC knife. It is beautiful for opening boxes, packages, and everything like that. The fixed blade, well, for me, obviously a fixed blade I typically use in the camping or backpacking application. Now that's not exactly what this knife is intended for, but I'll tell you, I made it work. So at this point, I have a whole bunch to show you, and if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor. Stay tuned.
I'm done with this. You want it? This pot is not hot.
Can you eat something?
No, I'm good.
You sure?
I like some. I eat a lot. Eat all the red stuff.
Yeah, if you want it.
I like some. All of it. I don't like it.
So it's one of the things I like about a knife, when you can do simple camp chores around cooking and eating tasks. So a lot of times I just kind of need to dig my food out of the fire real quick and move things around. And some knives you just can't do that, but other ones you can, and it works perfectly fine for that. It's a funny shape, but works pretty good to get in there and can lift the pan up and do whatever I need. Carrying the knife, no problem in the inverted position. You know, there's a lot of knives that I wouldn't carry inverted, but this sheath is very well made, has excellent retention, and is definitely suitable for the vertical position. And then with the multi-clip, it's great because, you know, you can really put it in a number of different directions, whether you want it on your belt, you want it on your pack, and in my case, on my shoulder strap. I do like carrying a knife in the inverted position while I'm hiking, so that works out very well and is fairly convenient to my needs. Now granted, this knife is not the most conducive to the, I'd say, wilderness or really sort of bushcraft environment. Not really the greatest for processing a fire, but it does make for an excellent overall capable slicey camp knife, and definitely a I would say like self-defense if you needed it. Not that I want to go fighting an animal, but worst case scenario, at least if you needed something, you'd have a fairly substantial self-defense weapon. So anyway, nice knife, carries well, absolutely perfect, and I very much trust and enjoy the sheath. So now you've seen some quality field use footage using this KU231. So as I mentioned, not really intended as a camp knife, but I'll tell you, I think this makes a pretty nice companion knife. Now granted, it is not the most suited to the sort of camping application. You definitely do not want to baton with this due to that thin tip. You can see a very thin profile there. I think if you were doing some real heavy stabbing tasks, you could certainly damage this. Batoning, you could damage it. It's just nice and thin. However, it is very slicey, does a nice job slicing. That's one thing with this knife. You will see it does a great job slicing. So you could, in theory, use this as a nice companion blade to, say, maybe, for example, an axe. You would use your axe to do some more of those sort of harder use tasks, maybe harder chopping or splitting or even some sort of carving. But then you could use this KU231 as a companion blade to do those finer tasks, some real nice slicing tasks. And really, this to me is a great option where you'd have this sort of tactical-ish style blade, nice little sort of self-defense weapon. Gives you the style and the ability to use this for some good quality slicing tasks. Now, it feels wonderful in the hand. I love the way this knife indexes. I think it has a great handle shape overall. It's actually very reminiscent of the KU212, which we've taken a look at in the past. So both of these knives with a similar handle. Now, they're not the same length, but they feel about the same in the hand when you index, just the way it locks in and the way it feels. So I greatly like this 231 for that reason. I was a big fan of the 212, and now that 231 feels excellent. In fact, that almost makes me think I'd love to see this in a folding style. I think that would be great. I mean, add a slightly different blade shape here and give you that sort of folder with that same upswept belly, that trailing point design, good tactical folder to match the fixed blade. Now, you do need to be a little bit careful when you use this finger choil. I mean, I think that's supposed to be a finger choil. It's certainly large enough to be, but you definitely need to be careful. If you look at how close that comes to really pinching on your finger, that to me is definitely a liability. If you're not careful, that could get you, and that is a straight up point in the reverse direction. So that could seriously do some damage if you're not paying attention and you're not careful. It would be really nice actually to see this just with a real nice little finger guard there to protect your finger. That way when you're doing those close-up tasks, you certainly feel a little more protected. But I have to say, overall, it's just a badass looking blade. Really tactical, really sort of, I would say almost, I don't know, it's like a karambit style in a way, where it's just got that sort of ninja style, just a good self-defense weapon, just a really aggressive and fierce looking blade. I like the style. I think it just leaves you a little bit susceptible to damage if you're not careful. Now, I have to say I'm pretty impressed at the KU231 sheath. This sheath actually has incredibly nice retention, zero rattle whatsoever, has a good lockup, and I definitely feel as though it's safe. You'll see that I've carried this extensively in the inverted position and had no problem whatsoever. So I definitely at this point trust this. And that's important for a knife with such an aggressive point. I mean, the last thing I want to do is have this like up around sort of my neck area and my face and be concerned about the sheath. It has proven itself on a couple of different occasions, so I do trust it, and I know that that retention is going to hold. Listen to that pop. I like that. Nice quality pop. Secure, no rattle, good clip as well. So this clip actually is supposed to have a locking mechanism to prevent it from opening up. I found that if you're not careful, it will still kind of pop and open. So if you're not careful, that lock doesn't work very well, but it's decent. This isn't quite as nice as a Blade Tech Lock, but it's on that same sort of idea where you have belt spacers. You have the ability to orient this in a number of different directions, and that's important for me where I do like to carry this in the inverted position. I think it's easy to get to. It's perfect for that application. And then when you get to camp, you can ride it horizontal as a cross draw sort of scout style on the front of your belt. So it works quite well for me. I do like it, and I think they've done a nice job. Overall, the rivets are well placed and give you plenty of functionality. Now, there is no true dedicated drain hole. However, I can tell you that the front of it's open just enough that water would probably leak out of there if it had to. So I think as far as a Kydex sheath, they've done a very good job with this particular model. Now, both of these blades are in D2 tool steel and have a titanium black finish. They are in G10 for the handles, obviously black and green. So just nicely done. Now you can get this 150 in a number of different colors. I just opted for the green. You can also get the 231 in a couple of different options, where here I end up having the coated blade. You can also get this polished. I thought for this particular application, just having it nice, dark, just this black blade, kind of concealed looking and just stealth, I thought would really work for me, kind of resonated with me a little bit more for this particular blade style. Now we've taken a look at the Swamp Rat Ratman Do in the past. This is another blade that I have with a sort of trailing point design. Now this is also distal tapered, so it kind of necks down nicely. This is just a nice little blade, and if you look at it in comparison to the 231, very similar in overall size. So very similar in size and in some ways in function. The Ratman Do also a little bit dainty. You need to be kind of careful. In fact, I have warped my edge just from batoning with this. Kind of need to be a little bit more careful with a knife that gets real thin and slicey. And so that is, as I mentioned, definitely the case for this 231. Now overall, as I mentioned, I have used these blades quite a bit. I have definitely used this 150 extensively. Good amount of wear on the edge of the blade there. The coating starting to wear away. This is a beautiful EDC knife. Now I'm not going to bore you with a ton of EDC task footage. You know what it's going to look like. This thing can slice like crazy, cut through cardboard like crazy. The important thing for me is to show you how nicely this indexes. So when you look at the fit in the hand, just fits perfectly. In fact, it's very interesting where the blade in this case is actually just a little bit shorter than the handle. So you end up with a nice balance, good fit in the hand, perfect size and shape blade. I actually use this. It is so precise on the tip to kind of dig out splinters and things like that. I don't have a fear of really cutting myself like crazy bad. I know I can just use this. I actually have dug out thorns and splinters and things. Very nice, precise tip on this trailing point design. So alright guys, there you have it. A quick look at the KU150 and the KU231 from Kubey Knives. Couple of trailing point designs in D2 tool steel, G10 handles, beautifully done. I, again, am a fan of Kubey Knives. I think they're doing a great job. They're very aggressive in some of their designs and styling at this point, which I like. I think they have a good mix, a good overall collection of blades with different knife shapes, knife sizes. They're getting, I would say, a little farther out there with some of their fixed blades for me in terms of what I would use for general use. However, at the same time, definitely functional and good quality aggressive styling. So again, I'd like to say thank you for Kubey Knives, who has provided this KU150 for review. Now I did buy this 231 with my own money because I thought it was a really nice looking blade, aggressive styling, and something that just, quite frankly, resonated with me. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.